What exact kind of interferences are being caused by this unidentified energy, and how is it affecting drones? Let's find out more about the unidentified energy causes drone interferences. The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, Season 4. After the previous experiments above the triangle and over the east field, in which many anomalies were found 300 feet in the air, and Brandon's helicopter was pushed around by some kind of invisible force, the team from Sky Elements was invited out to the ranch to see if they could help in verifying and also identifying just what could be happening in those two areas. Therefore, at this point, we are keeping our fingers crossed that Sky Elements can use their cutting-edge drone technology to conduct a safer and far more extensive scan over the triangle and the east field in order to provide them with better data and maybe some answers too. The purpose of this experiment is to deploy Sky Elements drones, which are generally used for enormous light shows over the triangle and the east field in order to observe their lit shapes against the background of the night sky. This will make it simple to spot any irregularities in the patterns that have been pre-programmed for them, and it will hopefully allow them to pinpoint the precise location of the anomalies that they have experienced in the past around 300 feet in the air. During this time, the drones were not arranged in the proper order. At the point approximately 300 feet above the triangle, it was evident that several of them had separated from their formation and gone their separate ways. Something happened, and as a consequence, those drones were forced to make an unexpected return to the ground. As a result, they touched the ground a lot sooner than they were expected to, which was a significant inconvenience. It is not anything that can be explained. The grid was flown a bit further to determine if the behavior was the same as before. The capacity to repeat a process is quite beneficial, and if the same procedure was followed, the rocket would be ready to launch. Given what they've seen and how unique it was concluded that repeatability is important. The rocket is armed and ready to launch now that all drones are prepared. Something tampered with the controllers of the swarm of drones as soon as they flew over the triangle, which caused their formation to change in a manner that Tyler and the team from Sky Elements had never seen before. It was obvious that something over the triangle caused it because as soon as the drones departed from that region to land, they instantly came back online and reassembled themselves in the pre-programmed formation they had been instructed to fly in. It seems like no matter what was done, there is always some kind of effect that can be observed in their experimental system. They are excited to fly similar patterns, if not the exact same pattern, in another intriguing place on the ranch, which is off to the east, where their surveys have shown some really interesting results. As soon as they witnessed what had happened to the drone swarm at the triangle, they couldn't wait to move the experiment approximately a half-mile to the east, to the field where it was being conducted. They began counting down 30 seconds after they had connected the igniter for the launch. Before Preston could even launch the swarm of drones, one of them mysteriously took off on its own and flew to the location that had been programmed for it. They had no idea that the GPS was even turned on. It was a really beautiful, tight formation right there. There was something hovering over the launch site, and then it vanished and went up into the cloud where it was last seen. It came into the sky and proceeded slowly across the sky for a few seconds, but then it suddenly disappeared again. It is one of the brightest UAPs that anyone at the ranch has ever seen. What was also quite fascinating is that during this most recent flight, they had one drone start just before all of the others, which is something they've never seen before because normally they all start at the same time and follow the same signal. To tell you the truth, that one drone that took flight was actually located in the middle of the group of drones that refused to communicate with one another. The data was grabbed off that laser scanner because there is a belief that this experiment was one of the best things that has been done with precision, and because there are so many data points, they can't wait to see what emerges from the data once it has been processed by Eric's surveillance cameras and Pete's scanning equipment, which will give them a good idea of what's going on. They will hopefully have additional visual evidence of whatever it was that they saw in the sky, and then they will be able to determine exactly what it was that was seen. In an interview with Pete Kelsey, who has a significant quantity of information from the drone experiments that were carried out in the East Field and the Triangle, added to the unveiling of the mysteries behind the unidentified energy causes, drone interferences, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, Season 4. He stated that in the background, you can make out May City, and when they got a good look at it, they noticed a rocket or something that looked very similar to a rocket from the very same location where they observed the UAP making its entrance. According to him, they will need to look at the film of the ball in the sky and see if it kind of matches in the same location as what the anomaly is in the LiDAR data. So here's the thing that they photographed using their mobile phones, and based on that, a three-dimensional model of what the object appeared to look like in the photograph was created. If you look closely, you'll see that it appears to be divided into two parts, and if you continue to examine it, you'll see that it appears to have an indentation, and there is a potentially problematic aspect to it. As a result of modeling, they put together what you see here, and this is roughly how they imagine it should seem. There are some details to share with you on the Eastfield workout, and there are some black spots at the end of it. It kind of looks like a dumbbell when you see all of the maneuvers that those 4 different drones went through during the entire exercise. On the other hand, they have access to the comprehensive information that was gathered from all 4 of those drones combined. Now, knowing that they are observing an exceptionally well-behaved formation in the Eastfield exercises, it appears to be exactly what would have been expected to see, because they believed that what ought to be done is headed over to the other portion of the exercise, which is located at the triangle. And it is a very great sight to behold. Click on the subscribe button if you are finding this video interesting. The data should have been displayed in the same complete and unbroken trends as it was over the Eastfield in a huge cube, given that Eric's GPS sensors were set on the 4 corners of the drone swarm. Whatever it is that's over there gives the impression of being absolutely insane. On the other hand, it was scattered all over in a shape that had nothing to do with what was seen when the experiment was actually being carried out. The shape was completely unrelated. Therefore, there is a lot to discuss in this regard, and one of the features of this that is incredibly puzzling is what happens when you look beneath the ground. It would appear that some of them are inside the mesa. None of the drones were acting in this manner, and if we're not mistaken, all of these GPSs were located on the corners of the structure, so how did they get there? In addition to that, they noticed a shape that resembled a tornado and appeared to be a wormhole from a 2-dimensional perspective. Why do they consistently get GPS data that is inside the mesa and underneath the ground when there are 2 funnels that are connected together at the throats of the funnels? It has been determined that the GPS signal in this area has been tampered with. That is a lot of material to take in, which has exposed everything there is to see at this point. This is some of the best evidence that they have been able to acquire, and it just goes to show that they need to put in more work in both of these places in order to achieve their goals. Is there any evidence that a scientific inquiry or analysis has been carried out to establish the origin or characteristics of this energy that cannot be pinned down? What potential issues or worries are there with the interference that the unknown energy creates in the case of drones? Want to know more about Attorney General assists in major UFO investigation, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, Season 4? Watch this video popping on the screen right now to learn more.